y'all doing? So today I'm filming the Unhaul challenge. So this challenge was created by Books and Lala, and I've been wanting to do this ever since she posted it, and I was gonna film just a normal unhaul, but then I thought that this would be much more fun. So basically there's a bunch of different challenges that are to prompt you to get rid of books on your shelf, and you're supposed to unhaul at least one book per challenge. I'm trying to do more than that, so yeah. Just a little disclaimer, if any of these are your favorite books, I'm so sorry. I'm not putting down any of these books, they're just not for me, or they're books that I just haven't gotten to yet, but you'll see that as we go along. So I'm sorry if I offend any of you, that's not my goal here. I'm just getting rid of books because I need room on my shelves for new books to come in. So let's just get started with the Unhaul challenge. So the first challenge is to get rid of a book that you rated low. So I have two different books for this one. First is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This is a book that I read closer to the beginning of the year. I can't remember what month it was in, but it was within the first few months, and I gave it a 3 out of 5, I think, which is not necessarily like really low, but I just didn't enjoy it enough to keep it on my shelf. It was just a very meh kind of story in my mind, so it's time to get rid of it, which sucks because it's a very beautiful book, but what you gonna do? And then I'm also getting rid of my 2 copies of A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I also rated this book quite low. Again, I think it was around a 3-star, but I can't quite remember. But I just, again, didn't really enjoy this story. It was very meh, and I'm getting rid of both copies because I didn't like it enough to even keep one, so these are both leaving my shelf. Next challenge is to get rid of a book that you changed your mind about. So again, I have 2 books for this challenge. The first one is Dead Is So Last Year by Marlene Perez, and I changed my mind about this one because this used to be a series that I loved when I was like 12 years old, and I was wanting to collect them all. And then I reread the first book again sometime this year, and it wasn't for me anymore, and so I don't really want to keep this book. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, so I changed my mind about reading this series and collecting them, so it works. And the next one is A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I don't see myself ever getting to this book. I don't know what made me think I was going to. If I want to get into this story, I will just watch the TV show. I don't know why I ever thought that I'd want to read this, but I did, and now I'm changing my mind. I don't want to, so I'm going to get rid of it. The next challenge is to get rid of a series that you won't be completing. Again, I have 2 for this one. So the first one being the Woman of the Otherworld series by Kelly Armstrong. If you guys know me at all, you know that I love Kelly Armstrong, but I just cannot get into this series. It's more erotic than I was expecting, and that's just not something that I'm into reading. And this one was just okay, and then I tried to read this one and I just could not get into it for the life of me, so I'm just giving up. It's a really long series that I just don't like enough to invest time into because it is so long, like a good 10 books. Like, it's so long, so I'm just gonna get rid of these ones, which breaks my heart a little bit because I do love Kelly Armstrong, but just not for me. And the next series I'm going to be getting rid of that I'm not going to be completing is a Pretty Little Liars series by Sarah Shepard. I read the first book, Pretty Little Liars, and it was just okay. I preferred the TV show, and then I tried to read Perfect, and I just really couldn't get into it. And I started to not even like the TV show at the end, so I'm just really not into this story anymore, and so they gotta get off my shelf. Plus, they are so ugly that I just don't want them. And the next challenge is to get rid of a book that you DNF'd. So the only book on my shelf that I DNF'd, I have a lot of books on my shelf that I've started to read and I haven't finished, but I haven't DNF'd them. I just didn't feel like reading them whenever I picked them up. But this is the only book on my shelf that I've DNF'd, and that is It by Stephen King. I don't think this was much of a shock to any of you if you've been on my channel for a little while, but I loved this movie, so I was so excited to read the book, and I got almost 500 pages into it, and I just could not do it. So I'm not into Stephen King. His writing is not for me. I don't agree with anything that he does in his writing. I can't, and no book should be this long, and I just didn't feel like forcing myself to read 500 to 600 more pages of a book that I really wasn't enjoying. Good boy. The next one is a book that you have multiple copies of, and for me that's going to be Looking for Alaska by John Green. I have the 10th anniversary hardcover edition, so I'm going to keep that one instead of this one. This was really the only book on my shelf that I had multiple copies of that I was willing to part with, because if I have multiple copies of a book, it means that I really love that book, so I want to keep the copies that I have. But this was the copy that I originally bought, and then the 10th anniversary edition came out and it was so much prettier, and I found a signed copy, and that's why I bought that one. So I just don't love this story enough to have 2 copies of it, so it's gotta go. The next challenge is to get rid of a book that you'll never actually get to, and I have 3 for this one, all by the same author, and that is 3 of Sarah Dessen's books. So we have Someone Like You, Just Listen, and This Lullaby. I've had these for like a good 3 to 4 years now, and I only picked them up because I'd heard a lot of good things about Sarah Dessen, and I was like, I think I'll like them. Let me just pick up 3 of her books from the thrift store. I've never really felt the inclination to read any of these, so I just know that I'm never gonna get to them. I really have no interest whatsoever. The next book for a book that I will never actually get to is Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. I bought this after I watched the movie. I was like in the post-movie hype. I thought that it was such a good movie, and I was like, I need more of the story. So I was like, yeah, I'll read the book. So I bought it after seeing the movie, and I just have never had desire to pick up the book. If I want to digest this story, I'll just watch the movie. But also as time has passed, I realized I don't love the movie as much as I thought I did. Like, it's a good movie, but I'm not obsessed with it, not enough to read the book. Like, this is a pretty chunky contemporary that I just don't feel like investing my time into. There are so many other books that I'd rather get to. So next challenge is a book you bought because of the hype. And this is a book that I've been holding on to for a very long time in the hopes that I would read it, and I really don't see myself ever getting to it. And that is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is a book that was super hyped up back in like 2015 when it first was published, and I fell into that hype and I bought it, and I never even read like the first page. It's just not something that I'm really interested in reading. It's a very beautiful book, so I'm very sad about it, but I've also heard mixed things about the second book, and so I just don't really feel like committing to it and reading it, and I just have so many other books on my shelf that I'm interested in reading, and so this one is just never gonna happen. And it was bought purely because of the hype, if I'm being honest. Like, I probably wouldn't have had any interest in this book if there was no hype on BookTube. And then the next challenge is a book you bought because of the cover, and I really could not find one for this because I do not buy books solely based on covers. I will be attracted to a book because of the cover, but I buy it because of the synopsis. So I couldn't really find one, so I decided to slightly change it into a pretty book that I want to get rid of. And I still couldn't really find one because all the books were already in their own categories, and like I didn't have any other more books to unhaul. But there's one that I will possibly be unhauling, so I'll just show you that one instead. So I will possibly be unhauling Made You Up by Francesca Zappia, but not because I didn't like it. I just talked about it in my June and July wrap up, so I did really enjoy it, but I want to get a new copy of it because this is a battered old library copy that I bought for 25 cents, and I just much prefer to have either a nicer paperback copy that doesn't have library stickers all over it, or a nice hardcover copy that can go next to Eliza and Her Monsters. So I'm not officially unhauling this yet because I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a good copy, but when I do find a good copy, this will be leaving my shelf. But this is really the only book I could think of to mention, so I thought I would just mention it anyways. And the next challenge is a book you don't know anything about. So for that one, I have On the Trail of the Bushman by Anita Dare. I won this from my library. I entered this contest where you basically like talked about your favorite book of the year so far or something, and I chose Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and I guess that won, and so everyone who voted for that book won, and so I got a bag of books and other little goodies, and this book was in it, and I really have no interest in this whatsoever, and I just feel like some kid could enjoy it more than I could, because this isn't really like a YA book, and I don't really want to read like an actual children's book, so I'm going to donate this and hopefully a child will find it and love it, because I know that I won't. And I also have no idea what the hell this is about. And the next challenge is a book that you didn't buy, and so for that I have Never to Be Told by Becky Citra. This is another book that I won from the library for that contest, and I didn't buy it and I don't want it, so this is another book that will be getting donated to, in the hopes that some child will find it and love it more than I know I will. And then just quickly at the end of this video, I wanted to show you guys some books that I am taking off of my shelves, but I'm not actually unhauling. They're just going to go into my basement. I don't want them on my shelf. The first one is this little book that my dad's cousin gifted to me years ago. It's basically just like this mystery book, I think, that's translated into English from Portuguese, and I honestly just have no interest in reading this, but I do feel bad getting rid of it, so I'm just going to keep it in my basement. And then I also have Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. If you guys saw a wrap-up a few months ago, I read this and I didn't really enjoy it, but I don't actually want to get rid of it, so I'm going to keep it and it's just going to sit in my basement. First 4 books in a series of unfortunate events series by Lemony Snicket. I was trying to read and collect this series because I missed out on it as a child. I never read it for some reason. Loved the movie, so you think that after watching the movie and loving it as a child, I would want to pick up the books. I don't know why I never did, but I really miss my time on these. I feel like reading them for the first time at the age that I am, it just doesn't work for me. But I do want my children to read them. Like, I don't want them to miss out on this because I feel like it is a fun story. I just have missed out on it. So that was the Unhaul challenge. I hope you all enjoyed that video. I hope I didn't offend any of you with the books that I'm getting rid of, but they're just not for me. They're not books that I want to keep on my shelf, so I hope you don't mind. And I will be either donating or selling these books. If you like this video, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up. Comment down below any of the books that you've unhauled recently. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and also hit that notification bell right beside it if you want to be notified every time that I post a new video, and I'll see you guys next time.